Hi, this is Krista at the Secret Yarnery. Today we are making this crochet V-stitch scarf. It is a super easy crochet scarf for beginners. This gorgeous scarf is just a one-row repeat, and it works really, really fast because we are working into these spaces. We don't have to look for stitches. We're just looking for these nice V-stitches and working right into the middle, so it goes really quick. It also has this lovely straight edge, so it's really good for beginners. It can be made any width you want just by adjusting your starting chain by any multiple of 3. If you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, it's available over on my website, secretyarnery.com. And all my patterns are written in plain English, so you don't have to be able to read a pattern to follow along. It's just what I'm saying in the video, but on paper form. To make this crochet V-stitch scarf, you will need yarn. I'm using Saver from Ice Yarns. It is 200 grams, 330 meters. And this much yarn makes a lovely long scarf. It is 8 inches wide and 75 inches long. That is 20 centimeters wide and 190 centimeters long. You can use less yarn, maybe 150 grams would be a great size. You'll also need a crochet hook. I'm using a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook or a K hook, but you can use a 6 millimeter or a 7 millimeter for this pattern, whatever hook you have at home. You will also need a needle for sewing in your ends and a pair of scissors. So let's get started. To make the easy crochet V-stitch scarf, just make a slip knot any which way you normally do. Shrink that down and pop it onto your hook. Now we're going to chain multiples of 3, so you can make your scarf as narrow or as wide as you would like. For my scarf, I chained 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you want a refresher on how to do your chain or any of your stitches, I will link the classes for beginners up in the cards above. So there is my chain 30. So we want to work into the back loops. So find these pretty little V's and just put your thumb on them, just loosely. You don't want to squish them, but just roll it to the side, and then you will see these V's. The first one is right underneath the working yarn, right there. And there's our number 2, our 3, and our 4. We want to look for the 4th stitch, the 4th chain. That is where we're going to start our scarf. So wrap your yarn and into the 4th chain. Just slide that back loop onto your hook. If working into your back loops is hard, you can work into the front. And make 1 double crochet. Chain 1. And 1 more double crochet into that very same stitch, or the same chain. 1 more double crochet. Now we're going to skip 2 chains. So just with our chain on the side, we're looking for these camel bumps, or the back loops. So we're going to skip 1 and 2. We're going to work into the 3rd right there. So wrap your yarn, and into the 3rd chain, just slide that back loop onto your hook, and make 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. Just like that. So we're going to keep doing that all along our chain. So we're going to skip 2, 1 and 2, and we're going to work into the 3rd chain, and we're going to make our V-stitch into the 3rd chain. So your V-stitch is 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. And you can see why they call them a V-stitch is you can see that V shape right there. So skip 2 chains and into the 3rd, 1 double crochet, chain 1, 1 double crochet, all into the same chain. And now keep working along your chain, skipping 2 and into the 3rd, making a V-stitch of 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. So now you can pause the video and keep working along your chain, skipping 2 chains and working into the 3rd with a V-stitch. At the end of your chain, you will have 2 chains left. So to count your chains, you don't count the knot, you just look for that back loop just right there. So there's 1 and 2. We're going to skip 1 and work into that very last chain. So wrap your yarn and into that very last stitch, that last chain, just slide that back loop on your hook and make 1 double crochet. So we're always going to finish our rows with 1 double crochet. So that finishes row 1. To start row 2, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and turn your work. To turn your work, you want to slide your hand under your working yarn, grab your work, and turn it towards you, just like that. So now we're going to work right into the center of these V's, all the way along our row. So jumping straight over into the next V, right into the middle of that V, wrap your yarn and make another V. So every V gets a V, and V's are double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Find your next V, so just look for where those stitches start and go in above that, right there. Wrap and 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet, all into the center of that V. Wrap your yarn, find the center of the next V, and 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet, all into the same space. So we're not working into any stitches, we're just working into the centers of these V's. So center of each V gets another V, 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet, all into the same space. So you can pause the video and just keep working along, making a V into the center of each V of the row down below. Each V is double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. At the end of your row, we have done our last V into the space of our last V from the row below. Now we want to work into our chain. So this stitch right here, that is our double crochet. So we're not working into here. We want to look for this very first chain right there. We want to get 2 strands of that stitch on your hook. So wrap your yarn and into the top of the chain 3, 2 strands of that chain on the top of your hook, your last double crochet of the row. So our rows end with 1 double crochet into the top of the chain 3. So that finishes row 2. Row 2 is the repeat, but I'll show you again just the start and finish for row 3. So to start each row, you are going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slide your hand under and turn your work. That's going to make sure our chain is facing the right direction when we work into it. And now into each of these spaces, each of the V's all the way along, we are going to put a new V. So each V gets a V, and V's are double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. So now you can pause the video and just keep working along, putting 1 V into the center of each V down below, and I'll meet you when we get closer to the end of this row. So at the end of our row, we just have our chain left. We've worked into our V. Now we just want to work into the top of our chain 3. And because we've been turning our work nicely, we can just slide our hook right on top of this loop of the top of that chain 3, and just slide it in, and that'll automatically get you those 2 strands on the top of your hook, and that is what we want. We're always going to end our row with a double crochet into the top of the chain 3. So 1 double crochet to finish the row. Just like that. So now keep going, making the same row repeat over and over and over, starting with a chain 3, a V into every V, and ending with a double crochet until your scarf is the length you want it to be. when your scarf is the length you want it to be or you have run out of yarn, at the end of your row, after your last double crochet into the chain 1. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. Sew in your tail and you're finished. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and the notification bell beside that. I'd love to see how yours turned out. You can find me on social media. All those links are in the description box down below. And thanks so much for hooking along. We'll see you in the next video, and stay hooked.